Hey everybody, Max here for IGN. I'm at E3 right now, and we just got done with the EA press conference, and we got a nice look at what's in the works for Star Wars, and unfortunately, in typical EA fashion, it's sort of buried in a bunch of developer diary nonsense, so I figured I would scrub through this little 3-minute video they put up and pull out all the interesting parts. Let's get started. First things first, here is our first look at Battlefront Bespin DLC, which is coming out very soon. We knew that Lando's a hero, Cloud Cars look like are a thing now, and Bespin Guards. That's cool. Meanwhile, not a whole lot. There's some carbon freezing looking stuff here. And then this is interesting. Here is a close look at what seems to be a work in progress of a Death Star Trench Run, which is, of course, the next DLC coming to Battlefront. And then following that is a look at a familiar Trandoshan bounty hunter who seems to be Bosk. So I'm guessing that for the next package of DLC they're going to put out, we're probably going to get Chewie and Bosk as heroes and a Trench Run sequence of Fighter Squadron, which I'm down for. That seems like a nice thing to do. Let's see. Next up, they talk a little bit about what Criterion Games have been doing. Those are the guys who made Burnout. They are working on a PlayStation VR Battlefront sequence, which lets you be inside an X-Wing, which is pretty exciting. Now, moving on, we got to look at also what the fine folks at Jade Raymond's Motive Studios are working on, which seems to be Battlefront 2, I think. And there's this little clip of Rebel Fighter getting into an X-Wing, which is, of course, something we don't actually see in the regular game because you just sort of spawn into them. So there's that, I guess. And then this is interesting. They mentioned they're going to be rolling in stuff from the newer movies, and here is some concept art that seems to show First Order TIE Fighters and Star Destroyers, which is interesting because we so far haven't seen those guys pop up in-game just quite yet. Moving on, there's also a little bit about what Respawn's been doing, which seems to... I think they mentioned it's going to be set in a different era. This looks like some fine folks doing some lightsabering. So I'm guessing this is going to be a more kind of force-heavy prequel era, kind of maybe like a God of War game set in Star Wars, God of Star Wars. That sounds cool, right? Now, next up is the thing that we all really care about, which is what Visceral is doing with the help of Amy Hennig. And our first look at this is some concept art, our favorite. What we got here appears to be Tatooine. We got the twin suns, some familiar architecture, and then in the foreground there is a nice Imperial Death Star droid. And then there are some funny-hatted bad guys who... They kind of look like the Sith Inquisitors from Rebels a little bit. And then in the background you've got... who I'm guessing are more main characters because they're not all wearing the same outfit. They look kind of like smugglers, and there's a man, and there's a woman, and then there's some sort of non-human. I can't actually tell. Maybe that's like a whipped. I don't know. And next we've got some kind of gray box architecture, which doesn't look like Tatooine. That kind of looks like Naboo, to be honest. And then, of course, Amy Hennig talks a little bit about how they're working with Doug Chiang, who is one of the concept designers from ILM, who's been with Lucasfilm since The Phantom Menace. And shows him looking at some stuff which I'm going to come back to this in a second, but it's a bunch of Imperial insignias and some sort of sketchy looking Rebel insignias. So moving on, we got our first look at actual kind of sort of in-game footage from this, and it's a man in a duster walking out into, I'm pretty sure that's Mos Eisley. Now check this out. So on the left side of the door you've got this kind of BB-8 looking thing, which I looked up. It is a 9000 series land speeder, and then to the right of the door there's this kind of shell of a ship here, like a hull, and that's totally sitting outside Mos Eisley Cantina in A New Hope. But what's different here is you've got a whole bunch of Imperial entanglement going on here. There's some speeder bikes in the foreground, moisture evaporators. I'm pretty sure this is Mos Eisley, but I mean it could always be some surprise and some very similar other cantina maybe. Anyway, that's about all we got. I'm excited about this little tiny clip here. I wish there was more, but I mean, I guess we'll have to wait until next year. I think they said that's a 2018 release for that, but we're going to get Battlefront 2 in the meantime. For all things Star Wars and the rest of E3, keep it right here on IGN, and may the Force be with you. I'm looking forward to Bosk.